Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Self-castration? The blue-clothed young man's pupils constricted and his face went ghastly pale. Subsequently, he seized the small booklet from the hands of the green-clothed youth. Self-castration. It actually requires self-castration. The second half of the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll requires self-castration before being able to be cultivated. This blue-clothed young man was none other than Zhao Lei. The Zhao Lei that had left the ancient city of Everlast and rushed back to the Seven-Star Sword sect that day after they'd obtained the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. It was exactly because Zhao Lei brought back the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll that he got the chance to cultivate within this palace, which was on the location of a Seven-Star Sword sect spirit point. He's already dispersed his cultivation 3 months ago and cultivated this Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll, and his cousin, Zhao Ku, had similarly dispersed his cultivation as well. Zhao Ku was the only son of the Migres Peak Outer Court Elder, Zhao Lin. Big Brother Lei, could it be that we really have to castrate ourselves? Zhao Ku asked slightly hesitantly. Obviously, although Zhao Ku wasn't old, he knew what self-castration meant. Self-castration. Self-castrations. Why would it require self-castration? Zhao Lei had a savage expression and cold lights shot out from his eyes. No wonder. I'm wondering why there was no effect akin to rebirth like cousin uncle said, after I cultivated the first half. So it turns out that it's because I didn't castrate myself. In this way, the reason that Duan Ling Tian could complete rebirth was because he'd already castrated himself. Self-castration in exchange for rebirth, in exchange for peerless and monstrous natural talent. But at the same time, it also meant cutting off any chance of descendants. Zhao Lei closed his eyes, and his body lightly trembled. Presently, the road to become an expert was before his eyes. It all depended on how he chose. A slight difference in thought would be like the difference between the heaven and the earth. Suddenly, Zhao Lei opened his eyes, and his gaze emitted incomparable firmness. Little brother Ku, I've decided. I'll castrate myself. Only after castrating myself would I be able to possess the strength and natural talent like Duan Ling Tian. Zhao Lei looked at Zhao Ku and said resolutely, Big Brother Lei, do we really have to castrate ourselves? Zhao Ku's legs started shivering, and he had an expression of fear. Should we discuss this matter with my father? That won't do, Zhao Lei said resolutely. We can't let our fathers know of this. Otherwise, they wouldn't allow us to do it. After all, once we castrate ourselves, the Zhao clan will have no descendants. Zhao Ku went silent as it was indeed logical. Big Brother Lei, I'm afraid. Zhao Ku's face became ghastly pale and his voice started trembling. What are you afraid of? Could it be that you don't want to possess a natural talent like Duan Ling Tian? You don't want to become outstanding and bring honor for your father? Zhao Lei looked at Zhao Ku as he asked. Zhao Ku's body trembled when he heard this, and a fierce light shot out from his eyes. I do. I want to kill all those people that opposed my father. Like that Mizar Peak's master, Zheng Fan. If it wasn't for him stopping my father that day, my father would have killed Duan Ling Tian long ago and seized the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. I know father hates him, so I must become strong and kill that Zheng Fan to give vent to my father's anger. As he finished speaking, Zhao Ku's face flushed red and his eyes flickered with bloodthirsty killing intent. Exactly. We want to kill all the people that oppose us and our fathers. But if we want to become strong, then the fastest way now is to cultivate the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. So long as we castrate ourselves, we'll achieve rebirth and possess a monstrous natural talent that is comparable to Duan Ling Tian. Bright lights shot out of Zhao Lei's eyes. At that time, the entire Seven-Star Sword sect would be ours. You'll be the sect leader, and I'll be the guardian elder. All right, Zhao Ku fiercely nodded. Big Brother Lei, we'll castrate ourselves for the sake of rebirth. Just like this, the only sons of the Seven-Star Sword sect's Outer Court Elder Zhao Lin and External Affairs Elder Zhao Yu discussed the important matter of self-castration. Just for the sake of being able to achieve rebirth as said in the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. Duan Ling Tian naturally didn't know about all this. Presently, Duan Ling Tian was roaming about at the southern area of Darkstone Empire. A lone swordsman. One man, one sword, wandering about all over with an extremely imposing manner. Whereas the 2-year agreement with zither young master grew closer and closer. For months later, within a quiet forest, Duan Ling Tian leaned himself on a large tree. On his shoulder, a cute fluffy little gold mouse stood there as it looked left and right. Big brother Ling Tian, are you sure they will come? The little gold mouse looked at Duan Ling Tian and blinked her eyes as she spoke via voice transmission. Don't worry, little gold, they will come. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled. Duan Ling Tian had only just finished speaking when a wave of rapid sounds of horse hooves sounded out in the distance as they approached in a formidable array. Over 10 robust bandits seemed to transform in a gust of wind that swept towards Duan Ling Tian and the little gold mouse. Halt! Halt! After a short moment, the 10+ bandits stopped their horses and looked at Duan Ling Tian from afar. Third brother, it is this kid? Fifth brother was killed by him. One of the 4 bandits in the lead looked at the people who stared at Duan Ling Tian with a livid expression and asked in slight disbelief. Exactly, it's him. The latter fiercely nodded and spoke with a voice that contained rage mixed within. A little youth around the age of 22 or 23 was able to kill fifth brother? Another bandit frowned and didn't dare believe his ears. Fourth brother, don't underestimate him. This kid is a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. The bandit that spoke in rage earlier spoke out once again. 6th-level nascent soul stage. Instantly, the other bandits beside him all became gloomy. Such a young man possessed a cultivation at the 6th level of the nascent soul stage? They could imagine how monstrous this young man's natural talent was. 6th level nascent soul stage. The middle-aged man amongst the 4 bandits in the lead that hadn't spoke up till now shot his slightly cold gaze at Duan Ling Tian. Your natural talent isn't bad. Unfortunately, you're going to die here today. Want to kill me? That will depend on if you have the ability. Duan Ling Tian's body that leaned on the large tree slightly stood up as he shrugged, then said indifferently, You ought to be their leader, right? 8th level nascent soul stage. Your strength isn't bad. Come at me yourself. His words seemed to not take the middle-aged man who was the leader of the bandits seriously. Kid, if you want to fight my big brother, then defeat me first. Instantly, origin energy raged on the legs of the one that spoke earlier, the second in command of the bandits, and he left his horse to fly out, seeming to transform into a cannonball that shot fiercely towards Duan Ling Tian. In the sky above this bandit, 1,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed out in tow with an imposing manner that shot up into the sky like a rainbow. 7th level nascent soul stage. In a short moment, the bandit's second in command had arrived nearby Duan Ling Tian. Die! The bandit shouted out explosively, and the saber in his hand transformed into a flowing light that carried along a shocking, imposing manner as it flashed straight towards Duan Ling Tian, as if it wanted to chop Duan Ling Tian into 2. Instantly, another 280 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared beside the existing 1,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes. This saber was obviously a grade 7 spirit saber that was able to amplify strength by 28%. Wham! Origin energy skyrocketed atop the bandit's second-in-command saber, and it tore through the sky, carrying might that could split mountains. This slash contained the strength of 1,280 ancient mammoths. You're overrating yourself. Duan Ling Tian's gaze was cold and indifferent, and at the same time that he spoke these words indifferently, his hand shook and the violet myrtle flexible sword appeared out of thin air. Sword drawing arts. Swish. His sword shot out like a bolt of lightning, like a swimming dragon that swept towards the bandit's saber slash that flashed towards him. Instantly, over 1,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes flashed above Duan Ling Tian. Clang. Poochie. An ear-piercing sound of iron weapons collided, and the clear sound of a sword piercing through a throat sounded out at almost the exact same time. In the next moment, bang! The body of the bandit's second-in-command that approached in full fury shook, and he even didn't have the time to let out a shrill cry before he and his saber fell down at almost the exact same time, devoid of any signs of life. Dead. Second brother. The expression of the bandit leader became even gloomier, and his eyes seemed like they were almost splitting. Second brother. The bandits that were third in command and fourth in command were ghastly pale, and their eyes sprang wide open, not daring to believe that all this was true. Since you've become bandits, then you should have expected a day like this would come. Duan Ling Tian coldly swept the 3 bandits in the lead and the over 10 bandits that were trembling in fear behind them as he spoke indifferently. I and my 5th brother didn't offend you. Why did you have to be a busybody and kill my 5th brother? The bandits third in command asked in anger. A busybody? It was fine when the third in command of the bandits didn't mention it, as the moment he did, killing intent that shot into the skeet arose instantly on Duan Ling Tian, and his tone was icy and indifferent like ice. It's fine that all of you robbed a village. It was for none other than wealth. But what did all of you do? Plundering and pillaging, and not even letting the old, women, and children off. Don't all of you deserve death? Third brother, why talk nonsense with him? Everyone attack together and kill him. The leader of the bandits shouted out explosively, then spurred his horse out to charge towards Duan Ling Tian. Bring it on. Duan Ling Tian's gaze abruptly lit up. Then he sent a voice transmission to the little gold mouse on his shoulder. Little gold, leave him to me. Deal with the others however you like. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse seemed as if she was on stimulants when she heard Duan Ling Tian, and she transformed into a gold light that flashed out. Meanwhile, the bandit leader had arrived near Duan Ling Tian. Wham! The saber in his hand split the sky as it flashed out, carrying along a shocking, imposing manner as it descended downwards to envelop towards Duan Ling Tian. An origin energy coiled around it, causing it to seem as if it had transformed into a snow-white moon. 1,408 ancient mammoth silhouettes descended along with this saber and swept out. 8th level nascent soul stage and a grade 7 spirit saber. Duan Ling Tian had no intention of dodging, and the violet myrtle flexible sword flashed out with the rays of his hand. Sword drawing arts. Swish. An incomparably swift violet sword light flashed by, moving boldly to intercept the saber, and it carried along origin energy that vibrated intensely. Quake energy at the limit. Within the origin energy, the strange aura of wind was pulsing. Wind force. Duan Ling Tian had utilized all of the strength in his entire body, wind force, and quake energy in this sword strike. Although when relying on the strength of his 6th level nascent soul stage cultivation, the violet myrtle flexible sword, and the wind force, Duan Ling Tian's strength was still inferior to the bandit leader by the strength of tens of ancient mammoths. But his quake energy at the limit was sufficient to make up for this little difference. Clang! His sword swept out, blasting away the saber in the bandit leader's hand, then entered into the chest of the bandit leader as if cutting through dry leaves. In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian's terrifying quake energy swept out. Ah! The bandit leader emitted a shrill cry that tore through the sky. Then it stopped abruptly, and his entire body crashed onto the ground as if without bones, without a sign of life any longer. Dead. Big brother. The bandits that were third and fourth in command were dealing with the little gold mouse and unintentionally looked over. Their eyes seemed as if they were splitting as they roared sorrowfully at the same time. Brothers, kill this damnable mouse and avenge the leader. The last 2 bandits that were in command shouted out explosively, and their eyes were completely red. Kill! Kill! The eyes of the remaining 10+ bandits went red. Little Gold, stop playing around. Finish them. We should return to the 7-star sword sect already. Right at this moment, Duan Ling Tian's calm voice that contained traces of origin energy overwhelmed the voices of the other bandits. Stop playing around. The hearts of all the bandits jumped when they heard Duan Ling Tian. Play. This gold-colored little mouse is playing with them? In the next moment, they found out the answer. The little gold mouse that fled about under their combined attacks had suddenly transformed into an incomparably swift gold light, and a tiny milky white sword light was carried at the front of the gold light. In the sky, 2,800 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form. 2nd level void prying stage. The bandit's third in command was ghastly pale as he shouted out in shock. This shout was bound to be the last time he spoke in this lifetime, because that incomparably swift gold light had already carried along the milky white sword light and pierced through his chest. Swish! Everywhere the gold light and the milky white sword light passed, all the bandits died without exception. In the blink of an eye, the waves of sorrowful cry and despair had stopped abruptly, and this area had completely returned to peace. Big Brother Ling Tian, I'm done. The little gold mouse held the pocket-sized spirit sword as she flashed out to descend onto Duan Ling Tian's shoulder, and her voice transmission had no lack of an intention to take credit. You were too slow. I thought your speed would be faster than me. Duan Ling Tian glared at the little gold mouse. Humph, humph. I was only teasing them earlier. The little gold mouse's voice transmission was filled with the feeling of being not resigned. I didn't ask you to tease them. Duan Ling Tian rolled his eyes at the little gold mouse, then said, Quickly become big. Let's return to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Although the little gold mouse was unwilling, she still obediently became large like a small hill and carried Duan Ling Tian to rise into the sky before heading south. Little gold, I'll use all of my time on cultivating during this period of time. You're able to find the way back by yourself, right? Duan Ling Tian had a doubtful expression as he gazed at the enlarged little gold mouse. Yes. The little gold mouse's voice transmission was filled with confidence. Okay. Duan Ling Tian nodded, then sat cross-legged on the back of the little gold mouse, and his mind was completely immersed in cultivating. 9 Dragons War's sovereign technique, Wind WIRM form. Presently, only half a month remained from the 2-year agreement with Zither Young Master. It was imminent. Duan Ling Tian hoped that he would be able to smoothly break through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage within this half-month of time. But the 6th level of the nascent soul stage and the 7th level of the nascent soul stage was a divide, and it was probably difficult for Duan Ling Tian, who had just broken through to the 6th level of the nascent soul stage for over 3 months, to break through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage within half a month. Although Duan Ling Tian knew this, he still had to try his best. No matter what the outcome was, he would still go all out. In this way, he would have no regrets. Duan Ling Tian cultivated for 7 or 8 days before awakening, and he asked in wonder, Little Gold, where are we now? Big Brother Ling Tian, you're finally awake. I think I'm lost. The little gold mouse's voice transmission was slightly embarrassed. Duan Ling Tian was completely speechless. Didn't you say you were able to find the way home? Duan Ling Tian was completely helpless against the little gold mouse's lack of a sense of direction. You go find a city now, we'll go ask the way, Duan Ling Tian said to the little gold mouse. Finally, after half a day, the man and mouse pair appeared in the sky above a city. After descending from the sky, Duan Ling Tian brought along the little gold mouse that had shrunk to enter into the city and ask for directions, and he finally knew that his current location was at the northeast area of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. In the following period of time, Duan Ling Tian didn't dare cultivate again. If the little gold mouse were to get lost again, then he would really be unable to make it in time. There's another 7 days to the 2-year agreement. Duan Ling Tian sat on the little gold mouse's back and directed her, and bright lights flickered in his eyes as he looked ahead. Unfortunately, it's probably difficult for my cultivation to break through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage in a short period of time. Duan Ling Tian sighed to himself. Finally, under the direction of Duan Ling Tian, the little gold mouse traveled at full speed and eventually arrived at the 7-Star Sword Sect 6 days later. 7-Star Sword Sect, I'm back. Duan Ling Tian's face revealed a slight smile as he gazed at the 7 sword peaks before him. Little Gold, go to Arcade Hall. After leaving the 7-Star Sword Sect for over a year, Duan Ling Tian was anxious to return home, and what he thought about the most in his heart was still Ke and Li Fei. His 2 fiancées had become a part of his life since long ago, and it was difficult to part with them. But when Duan Ling Tian and the little gold mouse descended outside Arcade Peak, they instead noticed that Arcade Hall was completely empty, even to the extent that there was a layer of dust on the pavilion of Arcade Hall. Could it be that Ke and Peak Master Qin Xiang went on a long journey? Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. Duan Ling Tian left Arcade Hall with the little gold mouse and intended to go to Arcade Peak to look for Li Fei. When he passed Mizar Hall after leaving Alcade Hall, junior brother Duan Ling Tian. A familiar voice sounded out by Duan Ling Tian's ears, and Duan Ling Tian turned around to notice a familiar figure. Senior brother Zheng Song. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as he greeted the young man before him, as this young man was none other than the son of the Mizar Peak's master, Zheng Song, and one of few friends he had a good relationship with in the Seven-Star Sword sect. Senior brother Zheng Song, congratulations. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force extended out, and he noticed that Zheng Song had already broken through to the 5th level of the nascent soul stage. No wonder, junior brother Mo, you said your eyes are like torches. Now it would seem that it really is so. You've only just returned and were able to discern that I've broken through with a single glance. However, it's all thanks to the profound nascent pill you gave me that day that I was able to break through. If I didn't have that profound nascent pill, then I'm afraid it would temporarily be difficult for me to break through. As Zheng Song finished speaking, he had a grateful expression. Junior brother Duan Ling Tian, thank you. The profound nascent pill was precisely the extra prize that Duan Ling Tian obtained for seizing the first in the martial competition of the 5 great sections. It was useless to him, Ku Er, and Li Fei, so he made use of the opportunity to gift it to Zheng Song. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled, then asked, right, senior brother Zheng Song. I went to Alcade Hall earlier, and I noticed that Peak Master Qin Xiang seems to have gone out. Zheng Song frowned. I'm not too clear about this. I only heard that it seems that someone come to look for Peak Master Qin Xiang. Then Peak Master Qin Xiang brought along her personal disciple and the personal disciple of Elder Bai with her as she left. My father knows about this matter more clearly. Go ask him yourself. Elder Bai's personal disciple? Could it be little Fei? Duan Ling Tian's brows raised as he thought in his heart. Under Zheng Song's lead, Duan Ling Tian met Zheng Fan in the pavilion on Mizar Hall. Peak Master Zheng Fan. Duan Ling Tian, you've finally returned. Zheng Fan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Duan Ling Tian. Peak Master Zheng Fan, you're? Duan Ling Tian was stunned. Duan Ling Tian, there's something you don't know. 9 months ago, my father carried out the sect leader's orders and headed to the ancient city of Everlast to protect your safety. But when he arrived at the ancient city of Everlast, only then did he find out about the news of your departure from the 2 external affairs elders in the Ancient River Trading Company's branch, said the nearby Zheng Song. Duan Ling Tian was surprised, and warmth arose in his heart. Thank you for your concern, Peak Master Zheng Fan. It's good that you've returned safely. Zheng Fan made tea as he nodded. Peak Master Zheng Fan, Peak Master Qin Xiang has left? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. Exactly, Peak Master Qin Xiang and her personal disciple Ku Er and the personal disciple of Elder Bai, Li Fei, left 9 months ago. According to the sect leader, they'd gone to congratulate the sister of Peak Master Qin Xiang on her birthday. Zheng Fan nodded and spoke slowly. 9 months ago? And they haven't returned yet. Duan Ling Tian was stunned as he never expected Ku Er and Li Fei had left so early. According to the sect leader, the place they're going is extremely far. To and fro would probably require spending over a year, said Zheng Fan. Duan Ling Tian nodded. He was extremely at ease with Qin Xiang by Ku Er and Li Fei's side. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian, Zheng Fan, and Zheng Song started chatting as they drank tea. Junior brother Duan Ling Tian, where did you go gain experience and temper yourself during this period of time? Zheng Song asked curiously. Darkstone Empire. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled. You actually went to Darkstone Empire? Zheng Fan was surprised. Until what stage has your cultivation broken through to? The 6th level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Ling Tian didn't conceal it and spoke of his true cultivation. 6th level of the nascent soul stage? As soon Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, Zheng Fan and Zheng Song's face that were covered in an expression of anticipation had instantly crumbled. Duan Ling Tian, your cultivation ought to be inferior to the Zither Young Master, Zishang, right? The 2-year agreement between you and Zither Young Master is on the day after tomorrow, and with his temper, he would surely come. Zheng Fan frowned. Or else, why don't you not attend the fight tomorrow? Exactly, even if you don't attend the fight, no one would say anything. After all, The Zither young master's age was much greater than yours. You just have to endure patiently for another year or two. With your natural talent, you'd be able to easily crush him at that time, Zheng Song said in agreement. Peak Master Zheng Fan, Senior Brother Zheng Song. I know both of you mean well, but I've already decided on this matter. Duan Ling Tian smiled gratefully, and his gaze gradually became firm. Both of you were present that day when the Zither young master set the 2-year agreement with me, and I personally agreed to this. Since I've agreed, then I won't go back on my word. Zheng Fan and Zheng Song were both able to sense the resoluteness in Duan Ling Tian's tone, and they didn't persuade him again. Everyone has their own aspirations. Since you've decided, then I won't say anything further. However, Zither young master was at the 7th level of the nascent soul stage 2 years ago. Now that 2 years have passed, even if he was unable to break through to the half-step void stage, with his natural talent, I presume he's already broken through to the 9th level of the nascent soul stage. Zheng Fan looked at Duan Ling Tian with a serious expression. So you must not carry out a life and death battle with him. It doesn't matter if you lose now, you can regain the victory in the future. Otherwise, once you're killed, then you'll be left with nothing. Exactly. Zheng Song looked at Duan Ling Tian as well. Junior brother Duan Ling Tian. If the Zither young master wants to carry out a life and death battle with you day after tomorrow, then you must not agree. The concern of Zheng Fan and Zheng Song caused warmth to emerge in Duan Ling Tian's heart. Don't worry, I know what to do. Although he said this, a strand of cold light still flashed within Duan Ling Tian's eyes. If the Zither young master persisted on carrying out a life and death battle with him, he wouldn't mind as well. He might be inferior to Zither young master in terms of strength and speed, but Zither young master could only dream of having an advantage in any other aspect. Duan Ling Tian chatted with Zheng Fan and Zheng Song for a while before bidding his farewells and leaving. Big brother Ling Tian, they really underestimate you. Duan Ling Tian's sleeve slightly moved, and it was the little gold mouse that was up to mischief. At the same time, the seemingly immature voice of a young girl entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears via voice transmission. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled, then paid no attention to the little gold mouse as he headed towards Migres Peak. I wonder if Zhao Lin cultivated the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. If he did cultivate it and castrated himself, I wonder what expression he would have when he sees me still alive. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart as he stepped onto the chain bridge that headed to Migres Peak. The corners of his mouth curled into an evil smile. Zhao Lin. That time when he'd just arrived at the 7-star sword sect, Zhao Lin had used every possible method to make it difficult for him, and Zhao Lin racked his brains to seize the fictitious Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll that he casually fabricated. Because of this, there was a period of time that he was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. However, when Zhao Lin aroused killing intent towards him for the fictitious Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll, he was completely enraged. Especially on the chain bridge that day, Zhao Lin actually directly struck a killing blow towards him, and if it wasn't for the Migres Peak's elder Lu Qiu lending a hand, he'd already have been killed. Duan Ling Tian didn't have a good impression of Zhao Lin. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian had passed through the chain bridge and stepped onto Migres Peak. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian. Everywhere Duan Ling Tian passed, the Migres Peak disciples all bowed respectfully. They didn't know about Duan Ling Tian leaving the 7-star sword sect, and they only thought that Duan Ling Tian was in closed-door cultivation lately. Duan Ling Tian. Suddenly, a shout of surprise that was filled with disbelief suddenly sounded out from the distance. Duan Ling Tian looked over. In the distance, a middle-aged man walked over slowly, and his expression was as if he'd seen a ghost when he saw Duan Ling Tian. Elder Zhao Lin. The middle-aged man was an old acquaintance of Duan Ling Tian, and when Duan Ling Tian saw his old acquaintance, he naturally would lightly smile and greet him. At the same time that Duan Ling Tian greeted Zhao Lin, he stretched out his spiritual force. Zhao Lin actually didn't disperse his cultivation. Duan Ling Tian slightly frowned. Could it be that he noticed the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll was fake? Or perhaps the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll was pocketed by Zhao Yu and his son? Zhao Yu is the external affairs elder of the Seven-Star Sword sect in the Ancient River Trading Company's branch in the ancient city of Everlast. The Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll that Duan Ling Tian casually fabricated had precisely entered into the hands of Zhao Yu. Duan Ling Tian, you actually didn't die? Duan Ling Tian's eardrums shook and a cold and harsh voice transmission entered into his ears. Elder Zhao Ling, what do you mean by this? Duan Ling Tian looked at Zhao Lin from a distance and replied via voice transmission as he acted surprised. Duan Ling Tian, we're using voice transmission and others are unable to hear it. Stop feigning ignorance. Could it be that the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll my cousin brother acquired that day is fake? At the same time that Zhao Lin sent a voice transmission, his face seemed to become warped and savage. So what if it's fake? Didn't you not cultivate it yet? Duan Ling Tian said indifferently. You caused my son to disperse his cultivation. Zhao Lin's appearance was terrifying, and traces of coldness was mixed within his voice transmission. It could be imagined that if it wasn't for the concentrated gazes of the surrounding Migres Peak disciples, he might have directly struck a killing blow towards Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian was able to sense boundless rage from Zhao Lin's voice transmission. He was indifferent towards this. Zhao Lin, get it straight. It wasn't I who harmed your son, but you instead. If it wasn't for you coveting that fictitious Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll in my possession, do you think all this would have happened? Duan Ling Tian looked at Zhao Ling, and his voice transmission contained a sneer mixed within. Fictitious. Zhao Lin's pupils constricted, and his voice transmission was slightly anxious. What do you mean by this? What do I mean? Duan Ling Tian grunted, then said via voice transmission. There's no Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll in this world at all. That's just a cultivation method I casually fabricated to divert your attention that day. No, impossible. There was obviously a change akin to rebirth on you that time. Could it be that all of it was fake? It was all part of your scheme against me. Zhao Lin was on the verge of going berserk. Scheming against you? Duan Ling Tian sneered. Zhao Lin, you think too highly of yourself. I didn't know you that day, so where does this talk of scheming against you come from? As for the changes akin to rebirth, I have to say that you're extremely smart and guessed correctly right at the beginning. I consumed the 10,000-year stalactite milk to obtain rebirth. 10,000-year stalactite milk. Zhao Lin's figure trembled as if it was struck by lightning, and scarlet red appeared in his eyes as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian, you actually deceived me. Deceive? Perhaps. Duan Ling Tian shrugged and glanced indifferently at Zhao Lin. That day, I casually fabricate the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll only because I wanted you to dispel your covetous thoughts. But unexpectedly, you were actually so mad for the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. First, you asked 2 outer court disciples to make trouble for me. Then you even controlled the outer court martial competition to become a life and death competition, and even asked Sure how to kill me. But unfortunately, all you schemes didn't succeed and were crushed by me. Duan Ling Tian's voice transmission entered into Zhao Lin's ears. Zhao Lin's face was livid when he heard Duan Ling Tian, and his body started to tremble unrestrainedly. Duan Ling Tian. Zhao Lin took a deep breath, and the tone of his voice transmission eased up slightly. So long as you hand over the 10,000-year stalactite milk, the score between you and me will be written off. Zhao Lin's words caused Duan Ling Tian to be stunned. Zhao Lin was still thinking of the 10,000-year stalactite milk when it had come to this. Duan Ling Tian glanced indifferently at Zhao Lin, then said slowly via voice transmission, Elder Zhao Lin, I think you'll likely be disappointed. The 10,000-year stalactite milk was completely consumed by me that day. Do you think I would believe you? Zhao Lin's voice transmission was filled with ruthlessness. Duan Ling Tian, I'll give you one more chance. So long as you give me the 10,000-year stalactite milk, the score between us will be written off. Otherwise, even if your natural talent is extraordinary, you won't be able to live happily within the Seven-Star Sword sect in the future. It isn't difficult if I want to make you die. As he finished speaking, Zhao Lin's tone fully displayed an intention to threaten. Then I'll wait and see. Duan Ling Tian glanced deeply at Zhao Lin and completely disregarded it before leaving with large strides. You. Zhao Lin's expression became savage again, and his eyes were filled with coldness as he gazed at Duan Ling Tian's figure that disappeared into the distance. Zhao Lin took a deep breath and looked towards the numerous gazes that had swept over, and instantly snapped. "What are you looking at?" Instantly, the crowd of Migres Peak disciples were scared to dispersion. *T. That muscle meridian rebirth scroll is fake. I can't allow my son to continue cultivating it. Zhao Lin's face went pale, and he hurriedly stepped onto the chain bridge that headed towards Dubhe Peak. In next to no time, Zhao Lin arrived at the palace that was near the peak of Dubhe Peak. In next to no time, Zhao Lin saw his only son, Zhao Ku, in a spacious room. Presently, Zhao Ku was with Zhao Lei, seeming to be discussing something. Their brows were knit together as they looked at the small booklet between them. "Father! Uncle!" Zhao Ku and Zhao Lei looked at Zhao Lin and hurriedly greeted. Swoosh! Zhao Lin raised his hand to pick up the small booklet on the table. Then origin energy bloomed out from his hand to directly destroy the small booklet. "Father, what's going on?" Zhao Ku was completely dumbstruck when he saw this scene. That was the muscle meridian rebirth scroll. "Uncle, what's going on?" Zhao Lei was stunned as well, and his face went pale. Without the muscle meridian rebirth scroll, it would also mean his future was completely in darkness without any light to speak of. After all, he'd already dispersed his cultivation and was without a means of retreat. Presently, although he'd started cultivating once again, he'd only cultivated to the 9th level of the core formation stage. It's fake. This muscle meridian rebirth scroll is fake. Zhao Lin's expression was livid and his rage surged. Duan Ling Tian didn't die. He didn't die at all. This muscle meridian rebirth scroll was fabricated by him as well, and there isn't such a cultivation method in the world at all. The only reason he was able to possess such formidable natural talent was because he'd consumed 10,000 years stalactite milk. What? Zhao Ku and Zhao Lei's faces went deathly pale when they heard Zhao Lin. It's fake. Their bodies trembled, then looked at each other and saw the despair in each other's eyes. No, no. Zhao Ku's body started trembling, and his appearance was savage, not willing to believe that all this was true. Ku, it's all right. You're still young, so you'll quickly recover your cultivation. Zhao Lin consoled. No, father, it's not because of this. Zhao Ku rubbed a certain place of his nether regions, and the empty feeling that he sensed caused him to close his eyes in despair. It's not because of this. Then because of what? Zhao Lin was startled, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. Uncle, you must take revenge for me and cousin brother Ku. Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian is so ruthless, so ruthless. Meanwhile, Zhao Lei recovered from his shock as well. His face was ghastly pale, and even his voice was obviously trembling. What exactly has happened? Zhao Ku and Zhao Lei's behavior caused the bad premonition in Zhao Lin's heart to grow stronger. Uncle, Zhao Lei extended his hand to grab a hold of Zhao Lei's hand. Then he brought Zhao Ling's hand to stretch towards his nether regions. Zhao Lin only felt emptiness in his hand. The most important part of a man on his nephew had vanished. Instantly, Zhao Lin's face went pale. Where's that thing of yours gone? Uncle, Zhao Lei cried out tragically, then said in resentment. There was a page at the center of the muscle meridian rebirth scroll that indicated some dazzling large words. It said that we would only be able to truly complete rebirth once we castrate ourselves. I and cousin brother. What? Zhao Lei hadn't even finished speaking when Zhao Lin's face became ghastly pale, and he stretched his hand towards his son's nether regions. But when he noticed his son's circumstances were similar to Zhao Lei, his eyes went incomparably scarlet red and practically popped out. Pooh! In the next moment, Zhao Lin's figure shook and he was forcefully angered to the point he spat out a mouthful of blood. Duan Ling Tian. I, Zhao Lin, resolved to kill you or die trying. Zhao Lin's voice was filled with bloodthirsty, icy coldness and hatred. No, this isn't real. Zhao Ku ceaselessly shook his head as if he'd gone mad. No, it isn't real. It isn't true. Zhao Lin returned to his senses when he heard his son's voice, then looked at Zhao Lei as he said with a deep voice. Why didn't you two tell me when you saw those words in the muscle meridian rebirth scroll? Zhao Lei's body shook and the corners of his mouth curled into a bitter expression. I and cousin brother Ku were afraid that if we told uncle, then you wouldn't allow us to continue cultivating the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll. But who knew that the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll was actually fake? It was actually fabricated by Duan Ling Tian. As he finished speaking, Zhao Lei's eyes emitted dense hatred and killed intent. Duan Ling Tian. It was Duan Ling Tian who had destroyed them. You all are so silly. Zhao Lei's face was ghastly pale, and he felt a wave of heartache when he glanced at Zhao Ke, who'd lost his wits. Father, finally, Zhao Ke came back to his senses and looked at Zhao Ling. Father, I want Duan Ling Tian dead. I want him dead. Zhao Ke's voice revealed extremely icy coldness, and he wished for nothing more than to break Duan Ling Tian's bones and scatter his ashes. Ke, don't worry. Father will absolutely not allow that Duan Ling Tian to live happily. So long as I can find the opportunity, Father will surely break his bones and scatter his ashes to vent the hatred in your heart. Zhao Ling gnashed his teeth, hating Duan Ling Tian to the limit. Duan Ling Tian caused his family line to be cut off. This enmity was comparable to the blood feud of killing one's parents. Find the opportunity? Zhao Ke shook his head ceaselessly. No. Father, I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait. Let's tell great-grandfather. Let's tell great-grandfather. Great-grandfather is the guardian elder of the Seven-Star Sword sect, and killing an inner court disciple to him is as easy as flipping his palm. At this moment, Zhao Ke had almost lost his reason. That won't do. Zhao Lin shook his head and restrained Zhao Ke. Why? Zhao Ke had an unwilling expression. Father, could it be that you don't want to help me take revenge? Ke, be a bit more clear-headed, Zhao Lin said in a low voice. It was us who was in the wrong in this matter. If we tell your great-grandfather, he would surely kill Duan Ling Tian to take revenge for you. But, in this way, your great-grandfather will become the target of public criticism. Even though your great-grandfather is the guardian elder of the Seven-Star Sword sect, he isn't the only one. In terms of strength, the other guardian elder, Elder Xian, has a strength that surpasses your great-grandfather, and he's impartial. If your great-grandfather kills Duan Ling Tian because of the matter that we are in the wrong of, Elder Xian would surely not stand idly by. There's also the sect leader. The sect leader's strength isn't inferior to your great-grandfather. At that time, even if your great-grandfather is the guardian elder of the Seven-Star Sword sect, it would still be difficult for him to flee from punishment. Your great-grandfather is the hope of our Zhao clan. Once the matter of him using his position to get private revenge known by all, he would have no place in the Seven-Star Sword sect. At that time, our Zhao clan would be finished, do you understand? As he finished speaking, Zhao Lin's voice was incomparably cold and indifferent. However, don't worry, I'll seek revenge from Duan Ling Tian for this matter sooner or later. Once Duan Ling Tian dares to leave the Seven-Star Sword sect, I'll tell your great-grandfather of this matter and ask him to kill Duan Ling Tian. So long as it's done secretly and we don't allow anyone to find out, then Duan Ling Tian would have died for nothing. Now, temporarily don't let your great-grandfather know of this matter. Otherwise, with his temper, he would surely directly kill Duan Ling Tian. Zhao Lin's words were filled with apprehension. Zhao Ke's expression eased up, and he took a deep breath. Father, I'm sorry, it was I who was too rash. But when I recall how in the future, I can't. I feel hatred. Why did I have to believe the Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scrolls saying that only by self-castration could rebirth be achieved? Why did I believe it? When he finished speaking, Zhao Ke was agitated once again. Zhao Lei stood at the side with a pair of tightly clenched fists and teeth that were bit together tightly, and his eyes emitted bloodthirsty hatred. Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian. At this moment, no matter if it was Zhao Lei, Zhao Ke, or Zhao Lin, they had all seemed to have forgotten that they'd brought this all onto themselves. If it wasn't for them wanting to seize the fictitious Muscle Meridian Rebirth Scroll that was in Duan Ling Tian's possession, if it wasn't for them having killing intent towards Duan Ling Tian, would Duan Ling Tian do this? Duan Ling Tian's disposition had always been one of not offending unless being offended, and if one offended him, he would surely counterattack tenfold, hundredfold, and even thousandfold. At the side of the peak of Migres Peak, in the stalactite cave, Duan Ling Tian sat cross-legged on the stone platform and closed his eyes in cultivation, and his entire mind was completely immersed in his cultivation. Presently, he'd completely withdrawn any thoughts in his heart once he found out that Kaer and Li Fei weren't in the Seven-Star Sword sect, and he completely concentrated himself in cultivating. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, wind WIRM form. When Duan Ling Tian cultivated, strands of strange aura pulsated on the surface of his body, and if carefully listened to, one would even be able to hear a wave of light howls of the wind. If a void-prying stage martial artist was here, the martial artist would surely be able to discern with a single glance that this was the aura of elementary wind force. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse hung upside down from the 10,000-year stalactite and started nibble on the 10,000-year stalactite in boredom. After a short while, she found it uninteresting and scurried around the stalactite cave. Drip. A clear sound resounded out, as a drop of milk had dripped down from the 10,000-year stalactite. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse looked at the drop of 10,000-year stalactite milk that had descended into the pool, and her eyes shone brightly as she looked around the surroundings in vigilance. Or to be more precise, she glanced at Duan Ling Tian in vigilance. When she noticed Duan Ling Tian didn't show any sign of awakening, the little gold mouse transformed into a gold light that flashed out, instantly swallowing the drop of 10,000-year stalactite milk. After swallowing the 10,000-year stalactite milk, the little gold mouse lay on the floor and dozed off in satisfaction. For an entire 2 days, Duan Ling Tian was completely immersed within his cultivation, as if he'd tossed every in the outside world to the back of his head. In his body, the origin energy ceaselessly flowed according the mental cultivation method of the wind WIRM form, as if he forever knew nothing of exhaustion. His origin energy flashed past and fiercely charged towards the last bottleneck. Bang! But unfortunately, the bottleneck was only blasted to the point it trembled, yet there was no signs of it loosening. Looks like wanting to break through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage before the 2-year agreement with that zither young master is indeed slightly unrealistic. Duan Ling Tian opened his eyes, and a bright light flashed within. Big brother Ling Tian, you've finally awakened. Duan Ling Tian had only just awoken when the little gold mouse's voice entered into his ears. Then subsequently, his shoulders sank as the little gold mouse had jumped onto his shoulder. When is it? Duan Ling Tian asked the little gold mouse. Today is the 3rd day since you returned. The little gold mouse blinked her jade green eyes as she slowly spoke via voice transmission. The 3rd day? Then isn't today the date of the 2-year agreement with that zither young master? Duan Ling Tian's pupils constricted, and with a raise of his hand, he'd grabbed the little gold mouse and stuffed her into his sleeve. Whirlwind. In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian's figure flashed, seeming to transform into a gust of wind that left the peak of Migres Peak in a short moment, then went all the way down the mountain. It's soon to be noon. Duan Ling Tian frowned as he gazed at the position of the scorching sun. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian had arrived nearby the trade hall on Migres Peak. The surroundings of the trade hall was empty without a single person. They ought to have gone to the peak of Dubhe Peak. Duan Ling Tian knew clearly in his heart that today was the 2-year agreement with him and the zither young master, Zishang, and the outer court disciples on Migres Peak would have surely gone to watch the battle. Duan Ling Tian's eyes squinted after he stepped onto the chain bridge and flashed out for a short moment. In the distance, there was a familiar figure dashing towards him. MOU. Duan Ling Tian stopped his footsteps, and he was slightly surprised as he looked at the approaching person. What are you doing here? Senior brother Duan Ling Tian. MOU stopped and respectfully bowed to Duan Ling Tian, then said, Master asked me to come look for you. Zither young master, Zishang, has already been waiting for you for a long time. Let's go. Duan Ling Tian nodded, then called out to MOU before leaving the chain bridge and heading towards the peak of Dubhe Peak. At the peak of Dubhe Peak, the platform outside the Dubhe Peak Trade Hall was incredibly spacious, but today, dense amounts of people surged in it, causing the entire spacious platform to seem exceptionally cramped. Presently, no matter if it was outer court disciples or inner court disciples, The crowd of seven-star sword sect disciples were all gathered around the life and death arena. Tens of figures floated in the air surrounding the life and death arena, and they were all the higher-ups of the seven-star sword sect. With the sect leader, Linghu Jin Hong, in the lead, all the peak masters of the other 6 peaks besides Alcade Peak were gathered here. For example, the Mizar Peak's master, Zheng Fan, and the Fekta Peak's master, Ke Jun, were shockingly present. Besides the peak masters of the 6 peaks, there were also the outer court elders of the 7 great outer court sword peaks and some Dubhe Peak inner court elders. For example, the Migres Peak outer court elders, Lu Qiu and Zhao Lin, and the Alcade Peak's outer court elder, Elder Bai, had all come. In the life and death arena, a proud and aloof figure stood there, as if having transformed into a statue. Time silently elapsed. Gradually, some of the seven-star sword sect disciples surrounding the life and death arena were slightly impatient. Where's Duan Ling Tian? Why hasn't he come? Supposedly, 2 years ago, it was he who personally agreed to the 2-year agreement. He wouldn't be cowardly to the point he doesn't dare come, right? It's possible. 2 years ago, Zither Young Master was a 7th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. With Zither Young Master's natural talent, I wouldn't be surprised even if he has broken through to the 9th level of the nascent soul stage. 9th level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Ling Tian, who was only at the 4th level of the nascent soul stage 1 year ago, would probably be unable to compare with Zither Young Master after a mere year. Yeah, perhaps he's able to surpass Zither Young Master after a few more years, but now they're indeed far apart. These 7-star sword sect disciples didn't look favorably upon Duan Ling Tian. Of course, there were many 7-star sword sect disciples that were blindly confident of Duan Ling Tian. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian will surely come. Exactly. Not only will senior brother Duan Ling Tian come, he will even create a miracle and defeat Zither Young Master, Zishang, and become famous in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Zither Young Master must become the stepping stone of senior brother Duan Ling Tian. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian is a creator of miracles. I believe in him. These 7-star sword sect were mostly outer court disciples of Migres Peak. They'd seen Duan Ling Tian's rise with their own 2 eyes. As far as they were concerned, Duan Ling Tian was the legend of Migres Peak, the legend of the 7-star sword sect, the legend they admired in their hearts. Suddenly, the proud and aloof young man on the life and death arena snorted coldly. Duan Ling Tian, the number 1 genius of the 7-star sword sect. Does he not dare come? Sect leader Linghu. Looks like that genius disciple of your 7-star sword sect had an unearned reputation. As he finished speaking, the proud and aloof young man's gaze descended onto the person in the lead of the group of 7-star sword sect higher-ups floating in the sky. Linghu Jin Hong, the sect leader of the 7-star sword sect. Zither Young Master, calm down. Linghu Jin Hong smiled lightly with a carefree expression on his face. I understand the way Duan Ling Tian conducts himself. Since he's agreed to the 2-year agreement you said, he would naturally not go back on his word. The proud and aloof young man, one of the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, Zishang, said indifferently, I hope so. After a short moment, it's Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian has arrived. It's really senior brother Duan Ling Tian. Like I said, how could senior brother Duan Ling Tian possibly be afraid of Zither Young Master? A wave of clamor arose on the peak of Dubhe Peak. The surging crowd quickly opened up a path that headed towards the life and death arena. At the end of the road, 2 young men walked over shoulder to shoulder. It was exactly Duan Ling Tian and MOU. It's really bustling. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but sigh with emotion when he saw practically all the 7-star sword sect disciples were gathered here. These 7-star sword sect disciples had undoubtedly gathered here because they wanted to see who was stronger in the 2-year agreement between him and Zither Young Master. All the 7-star sword sect disciples revealed expressions of reverence wherever Duan Ling Tian passed. I haven't seen senior brother Duan Ling Tian for an entire year. His disposition seems to have changed again. Yeah, senior brother Duan Ling Tian has become even more mature, and his strength is surely stronger. Many seven-star sword sect disciples whispered in discussion. The person by senior brother Duan Ling Tian's side seems to be the personal disciple the sect leader just took a year ago. Exactly, he's the new personal disciple the sect leader took after the sect leader's previous personal disciple, Huang Ji, betrayed the sect. Huang Ji is really an ungrateful bastard. The sect leader spent huge amounts of resources of the seven-star sword sect to foster him into a genius, but in the end, all he got in return was betrayal. The gazes of many seven-star sword sect disciples descended onto MOU, and within the discussions, many people were filled with righteous rage. They extremely hated Huang Ji, who'd betrayed the seven-star sword sect. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian and MOU had arrived near the life and death arena. Duan Ling Tian saw many familiar figures around the life and death arena. He Dong and Zhuqing, who had become inner court disciples with him, the son of the Mizar Peak's master, Zheng Song, and He Chun that he'd gotten acquainted with on Migres Peak. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled and nodded towards these familiar people. After they returned a light smile, Duan Ling Tian stomped his feet on the ground and easily leaped up to the life and death arena. For a time, the gazes of everyone converged onto the two figures in the life and death arena. Duan Ling Tian, the peerless genius of their seven-star sword sect who defeated the Saber Young Master at a young age and seized the honor of first in the martial competition of the 5 great sections. Zither Young Master, the genius martial artist of the younger generation that was ranked 3rd amongst the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, and was already at the 7th level of the nascent soul stage 2 years ago. The battle between the two was undoubtedly a grand occasion that was difficult to come by. All of them anticipated it extremely. Zither Young Master Zishang's eyes went cold when he saw Duan Ling Tian ascend to the life and death arena, and he said in a cold voice, "Duan Ling Tian, you've finally come. I thought you wouldn't dare." But Duan Ling Tian seemed to have utterly not heard him and had completely disregarded him. Sect leader, peak masters, elders. Duan Ling Tian looked at Linghu Jin Hong and the others that stood in the sky and lightly smiled as he greeted. Besides Zhao Lin, Linghu Jin Hong and the other higher-ups of the seven-star sword sect all lightly smiled and nodded to Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian. Zhao Lin stared fixedly at Duan Ling Tian, and his emitted frightful killing intent that seemed ready to swallow Duan Ling Tian. Although Zhao Lin's killing intent was concealed extremely well, to the extent Linghu Jin Hong and the other higher-ups didn't notice it, Duan Ling Tian was able to clearly sense it. The killing intent this Zhao Lin has for me seems to have increased. He said his son had dispersed his cultivation for the sake of cultivating the muscle meridian rebirth scroll I fabricated. Could it be that his son saw the dazzling words I casually added and castrated himself? Duan Ling Tian glanced at Zhao Lin, and his gaze became slightly strange. Duan Ling Tian. Zither Young Master's rage shot into the sky from being disregarded by Duan Ling Tian, and with a raise of his hand, a zither appeared out of thin air, and it was exactly the spirit zither he carried with him. The spirit zither in Zither Young Master's hand was a grade 5 spirit weapon. A grade 5 spirit zither. Zither Young Master, don't get flustered. Right when origin energy bloomed on Zither Young Master's fingers, and he intended to stroke the zither to attack, Linghu Jin Hong spoke. Today, I hope that you can know when to stop when battling Duan Ling Tian today, and not affect the good relationship between each other. Zither Young Master, what do you think? Humph. Zither Young Master looked at Duan Ling Tian with a slightly cold gaze. Sect leader Linghu, you're wrong. If it's a battle that I have to hold back and can't fight unrestrainedly, then what's the point of the 2-year agreement between me and Duan Ling Tian? Or perhaps, Duan Ling Tian is afraid of death and wants sect leader Linghu to interfere in the 2-year agreement between us. Zither Young Master's words labeled Duan Ling Tian as afraid of death. Linghu Jin Hong frowned. Most of the remaining 7-star sword sect higher-ups couldn't refrain from frowning as well. Duan Ling Tian's natural talent was extraordinary, and he was the future hope of the 7-star sword sect. If possible, They wouldn't allow Duan Ling Tian to take the risk. Right when Linghu Jin Hong intended to speak. Zither young master, since you want to fight without restraint, then we'll fight without restraint. Why should I, Duan Ling Tian, be afraid? Duan Ling Tian spoke resolutely. His imposing manner was awe-inspiring as he stood there, and he seemed to have transformed into a fearless war god. As soon as Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, besides Zhao Lin, who had an expression of taking pleasure in Duan Ling Tian's misfortune, all the higher-ups of the Seven-Star Sword sect had expressions that went grim. Duan Ling Tian, don't be rash. You're only at the 6th level of the nascent soul stage. It's absolutely impossible for you to be a match for Zither young master now. Where there is life, there is hope. Duan Ling Tian, it's all right to lose today. You'll sooner or later be able to wash away the shame from today after a few years. Numerous urgent voice transmissions entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears. Some of these voice transmissions came from the Seven-Star Sword sect higher-ups, and some even came from the Seven-Star Sword sect disciples, and it caused Duan Ling Tian's heart to feel warm. Sect. This was his sect. His Duan Ling Tian's sect. For the first time, an incomparably strong sense of belonging to the Seven-Star Sword sect arose in Duan Ling Tian's heart. Haha, good. Zither young master, Zishang, laughed loudly when he saw Duan Ling Tian actually agreed. Duan Ling Tian, I heard you defeated the demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master 1 year ago. Truthfully speaking, when I heard this news, I was extremely surprised, truly extremely surprised. It had been 1 year since I saw you for the first time that day, and you'd actually broken through to the 4th level of the nascent soul stage. I have to admit, your natural talent is extremely strong. But unfortunately, now that another year has passed, your cultivation has probably not even stepped into the 7th level of the nascent soul stage, right? As he finished speaking, Zither young master's eyes emitted a sense of complacency. Am I correct? Duan Ling Tian refused to show weakness and said indifferently, so what if I haven't stepped into the 7th level of the nascent soul stage? He hasn't stepped into the 7th level of the nascent soul stage? Many Seven-Star Sword sect higher-ups and Seven-Star Sword sect disciples broke out in cold sweat for Duan Ling Tian, and many people prayed that Zither young master was still like 2 years ago, only at the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. But was this possible? You're arrogant, truly extremely arrogant. Zither young master swung his sleeve as he laughed loudly, and his laughter was filled with ridicule. But unfortunately, you still don't have the qualifications to be arrogant before me. Today, I'll allow you to experience my improvement in these 2 years. I believe it will be a pleasant surprise to you. Along with Zither young master's unbridled words, the gazes of everyone descended onto Zither young master. Whoosh. The origin energy on Zither young master's body roared, and the energy of heaven and earth shook up and down above him before gradually condensing into numerous ancient mammoth silhouettes. 1,000 ancient mammoths. 1,100 ancient mammoths. 1,200 ancient mammoths. It was still increasing. 1,300 ancient mammoths. 1,500 ancient mammoths. Zither young master didn't utilize the amplification of the grade 5 spirit Zither in his hand, and had only relied the pure energy within his body to draw upon the energy of heaven and earth to condense 1,500 ancient mammoth silhouettes. Half-step void stage. My God, after 2 years, this Zither young master actually broke through to the half-step void stage. The crowd of Seven-Star Sword sect disciples were all dumbstruck, and the expressions of the Seven-Star Sword sect higher-ups were all gloomy. Half-step void stage, and only a step away from the void prying stage. As expected of the figure that is ranked 3rd amongst the 5 great young masters, this Zither young master's natural talent is actually so terrifying. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian hasn't even stepped into the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Yet this Zither young master has already broken through to the half-step void stage. He's halfway into the void prying stage. The two of them are utterly not on the same level. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian is probably in danger. At this moment, the confidence of the disciples that were filled with confidence towards Duan Ling Tian had now shattered. Could a martial artist that hasn't even stepped into the 7th level of the nascent soul stage be able to defeat a half-step void stage expert? They didn't dare believe it was possible, as this was something that was practically impossible to happen. The half-step void stage was too strong. Even if Duan Ling Tian was a 6th level nascent soul stage martial artist, his strength would only be comparable to the strength of 800 ancient mammoth silhouettes when not utilizing a spirit weapon. Whereas as a half-step void stage expert, even if he doesn't utilize a spirit weapon, Zither Young Master currently possessed the strength of 1,500 ancient mammoths. The two of them were utterly not on the same level. Most importantly, Zither Young Master possessed a grade Give Spirit Zither. At this moment, not only did these thoughts arise in the hearts of the group of 7-Star Sword Sect disciples, even the higher-ups of the 7-Star Sword Sect had similar thoughts. Half-step void stage. Zither Young Master actually broke through to the half-step void stage. The Mizar Peaks Master, Zheng Fan, revealed an expression of fear. Most of the 7-Star Sword Sect higher-ups, including Linghu Jin Hong, had slightly unsightly expressions. Although Duan Ling Tian had repeatedly created miracles in the past, when Duan Ling Tian created those miracles, the opponents that he defeated and even killed didn't have quite as large a gap in cultivation from him. At this moment, the strength of Zither Young Master was instead almost double that of Duan Ling Tian. There was no way to compare the two, and it was practically impossible for a miracle to appear. Sect Leader. Elder Bai looked at Linghu Jin Hong with a worried expression. Duan Ling Tian was the man of the disciple she doted on the most, and she had the responsibility to protect Duan Ling Tian's safety. Linghu Jin Hong nodded, then took a step forward and stood in the sky as he looked down at the two people on the life and death arena, and he said resolutely, Zither Young Master, I'll represent Duan Ling Tian to admit defeat to you for the battle today. As soon as Linghu Jin Hong said this, the crowd of people that were worried of Duan Ling Tian, like Zheng Song, Mo Yu, Zhuqing, He Dong, and the others, all heaved a sigh of relief. But there was always people whose expression became extremely unsightly. Damn it, Zhao Lin revealed a savage expression, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. Duan Ling Tian. At the side of the life and death arena, the face of the personal disciple of the Merak Peaks Master, Hu Shuefeng's, sank. The sect leader actually took the initiative to represent Duan Ling Tian and admit defeat for the sake of protecting Duan Ling Tian. Since he'd incurred enmity with Duan Ling Tian during the outer court martial competition, Hu Shuefeng had hated Duan Ling Tian to the limit. Although his master asked him to forget all past grievances with Duan Ling Tian, he only agreed in words, yet the hatred in his heart to Duan Ling Tian only increased. Today he felt a wave of happiness when he saw Duan Ling Tian was about to die in the hands of Zither Young Master. Now, when he saw the sect leader standing out for Duan Ling Tian, his chest was filled with the flames of envy and hatred, then seemed as if it would explode out at any moment. Admit defeat. Duan Ling Tian was stunned when he heard Linghu Jin Hong. He never expected that the sect leader would suddenly make this decision, but with a quick thought, he came to an understanding. Exactly, with Zither Young Master's half-step void stage cultivation, no one would look favorably upon him. Even if it was half a year ago, and if he knew that Zither Young Master's cultivation would actually break through to the half-step void stage when the 2-year agreement arrived, he would probably feel despair as well. Not to mention, he hadn't broken through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage now. Even if he had broken through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage, in terms of both strength and in speed, he would still be far from being a match for Zither Young Master, who had broken through to the half-step void stage. Ha ha ha. Zither Young Master laughed loudly when he heard Linghu Jin Hong. Sect leader Linghu, allowing Duan Ling Tian to admit defeat is only a small matter to me. But you must agree to one thing. What? Linghu Jin Hong's brows raised as he asked in a deep voice. I want to marry Peak Master Qin Xiang's personal disciple. If you're willing to be the witness for our marriage, then I can accept Duan Ling Tian's admission of defeat and not make it difficult for him anymore. Zither Young Master stared fixedly at Linghu Jin Hong as he spoke word for word. Linghu Jin Hong's face went gloomy. That's out of the question. Change it to a different request. Ling Hu Jinhong was extremely clear of the relationship between Duan Ling Tian and that disciple of peak master Qin Xiang. I only have this request. If sect leader Ling Hu is unwilling, then I can only carry out a life and death battle with Duan Ling Tian. Sect leader Ling Hu. Although I'm at the 7-Star Sword sect today, I'm confident that for the sake of the 7-Star Sword sect, you ought to not act rashly. Zither young master spoke indifferently, and as he finished speaking, there was no lack of an intention to threaten. My master has heard of the 2-year agreement that I've come to fulfill in the 7-Star Sword sect. If anyone in the 7-Star Sword sect dares stop the 2-year agreement between me and Duan Ling Tian, then I presume he wouldn't be happy. Ling Hu Jinhong's face became even more grim when he heard Zither young master. Amongst the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, the background of Zither young master was the more fearsome. Although the clan behind Zither young master could be considered to be a great clan in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, there was still some distance compared to the 7-Star Sword sect. The 7-Star Sword sect wasn't afraid of the clan behind Zither young master. However, the 7-Star Sword sect had to be afraid of the mysterious master behind Zither young master. Supposedly, the master of Zither young master was a recluse expert of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, and his strength wasn't inferior to the top experts of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. According to rumor, even the expert of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's imperial family that was called the #1 person in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom was reverent and respectful when facing Zither young master's master. Zither young master, is there really no way to discuss it? Ling Hu Jinhong took a deep breath and asked again. Zither young master simple didn't pay any more attention to Ling Hu Jinhong, his mocking gaze descending onto Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian, we were originally not people of the same level. Only I, Zither young master, Zishang, am worthy of Ku'er. You are bound to become a ghost under my Zither. Zither young master looked at Duan Ling Tian with a gaze as if he was looking at a dead person. The sect leader seemed to be extremely afraid of the master behind Zither young master. 2 years ago, when Zither young master arrived here, he'd once said to peak master Qin Xiang that he was willing to ask his master to gift a grade 5 spirit sword as the betrothal gift. Presumably, even if his master isn't a grade 5 weapons craftsman, then he's an expert that possesses an extremely good relationship with a grade 5 weapons craftsman. No matter if he's a grade 5 weapons craftsman or an expert with an extremely good relationship with a grade 5 weapons craftsman, I'm afraid he isn't someone our 7-Star Sword sect can easily offend. There are a few grade 5 alchemists within the entire Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, but there are no grade 5 weapons craftsmen. Extreme fear towards Zither young master's background was contained within the words of the surrounding crowd of 7-Star Sword sect disciples. Zither young master's master is sufficient to deter all the higher-ups of our 7-Star Sword sect and make them not dare interfere in this battle. Duan Ling Tian is probably going to suffer misfortune this time. Unfortunately, a peerless genius in the martial Tao, like senior brother Duan Ling Tian, had appeared in our 7-Star Sword sect with great difficulty, but today he's probably going to lose his life here. Many 7-Star Sword sect disciples looked at Duan Ling Tian with expressions of pity. Most of the 7-Star Sword sect higher-ups had unsightly expressions. Only the corners of Zhao Lin's mouth curled into a smile. Duan Ling Tian, looks like you're bound to die here today. It saved me some trouble as well. Junior brother Duan Ling Tian. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian. Zheng Song, Zhuqing, Mou, and all the other people acquainted with Duan Ling Tian had hearts that burned with anxiety, yet were powerless to help. Moreover, not to mention the mysterious master behind Zither young master. Even Zither young master himself wasn't someone they were able to go against. Everyone knew that Duan Ling Tian was unable to avoid this battle with Zither young master. Duan Ling Tian. Ling Hu Jinhong looked at Duan Ling Tian, and a sheathed sword appeared with the raise of his hand. This sword is my 7-Star Sword sect's sect-guarding spirit sword. It's a grade gift spirit sword. You. Ling Hu Jinhong hadn't finished speaking when Duan Ling Tian interrupted him. Thank you for your good intentions, sect leader. But I have no use for this grade 5 spirit sword. I have no use for it. Duan Ling Tian used a short string of words to refuse Linghu Jinhong's actions of lending the sword to him. This actions gave rise to another mighty uproar. That is a grade 5 spirit sword. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian refused it just like that. Perhaps, as far as senior brother Duan Ling Tian is concerned, even if he possesses a grade 5 spirit sword, he would have any chance of winning. If it's me, if I'm able to utilize a grade 5 spirit sword before I die, then it could be considered to have not spent my life in vain. Many 7-star sword sect disciples whispered in discussion. At this moment, no one felt that Duan Ling Tian had any chance of winning. After all, the difference between Duan Ling Tian and Zither Young Master was too great. Linghu Jinhong sighed and put away the spirit sword in his hand, and his eyes flickered with traces of unwillingness. He didn't dare gamble with the 7-star sword sect. If he really offended that mysterious master of Zither Young Master, then it would very likely be complete annihilation for the 7-star sword sect. Within the 7-star sword sect, the strongest people were the 3 great 6th-level void initiation stage martial artists that included him and Elder Pong. So long as a 7th-level void initiation stage martial artist comprehended a concept that wasn't weak, then he was sufficient to sweep through the entire 7-star sword sect. There was only one existence that was at the 7th level of the void initiation stage or above in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. It was the person of the Imperial family that was called the number 1 person in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Whereas Zither Young Master's master was able to make that person treat him respectfully, so his strength was surely no inferior to that person. As the sect leader of the 7-star sword sect, even if he was unwilling, he still had to know how to make a choice sometimes. He wasn't a single person. He represented the entire 7-star sword sect. Duan Ling Tian, it's my 7-star sword sect that has let you down. Linghu Jinhong's voice transmission entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears in a timely manner. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised, then glanced at Linghu Jinhong and smiled, yet he didn't say anything further. He'd vaguely guessed the considerations in Linghu Jinhong's heart, so he didn't blame Linghu Jinhong. Moreover, even if Linghu Jinhong really wanted to interfere in this battle, then not to mention Zither Young Master wouldn't agree to it. Even he wouldn't agree. Duan Ling Tian, looks like you've already given up. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Ko-Air after you're dead. Zither Young Master looked at Duan Ling Tian and revealed a complacent smile. Dead? Duan Ling Tian wasn't afraid in the slightest when facing Zither Young Master, and he said indifferently, Zither Young Master, talking big now seems to be slightly too hasty, right? Who will die is still uncertain. As he spoke, Duan Ling Tian's eyes squinted. 2 dim lights that were difficult to notice and seemed like nether flames were jumping about deep within Duan Ling Tian's eyes, and they emitted strands of a strong aura of the soul. This was the reason that Duan Ling Tian wasn't afraid in the slightest when facing Zither Young Master, who had stepped into the half-step void stage. He wasn't afraid of Zither Young Master. Duan Ling Tian's words caused the crowd of 7-star sword sect disciples that had fallen into deathly silence to be greatly shocked in their hearts. What does senior brother Duan Ling Tian mean by this? Could it be that he is confident in dealing with Zither Young Master? It's impossible. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian had admitted himself that he hasn't broken through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Moreover, even if he'd broken through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage, it would still be impossible for him to be a match for Zither Young Master, who was at the half-step void stage. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian wouldn't have gone mad, right? Many 7-star sword sect disciples were dumbstruck. Only the dim eyes of the 7-star sword sect's leader, Linghu Jinhong, and Mizar Peak's master, Zheng Fan, lit up with a bright light. They were naturally able to discern that Duan Ling Tian wasn't mad. Sect leader, could it be that this little fellow really has a way to defeat Zither Young Master? Zheng Fan was shocked in his heart, and he couldn't refrain from communicating with Linghu Jinhong via voice transmission, as if only when he obtained the confirmation from Linghu Jinhong would he be at ease. Earlier, he was extremely aggrieved in his heart when he saw Duan Ling Tian was in deadly danger as he couldn't do anything. The misgivings of the sect leader was similarly his misgivings. I don't know. Logically speaking, it isn't too possible. But Duan Ling Tian has always been creating miracles. Perhaps he can give us a pleasant surprise this time. Linghu Jin Hong shook his head, as his gaze that was filled with anticipation descended onto Duan Ling Tian, who was in the life and death arena. Zheng Fan nodded and looked at Duan Ling Tian in anticipation. Shameless boasting. Zither Young Master's face sank when he heard Duan Ling Tian, then abruptly shouted out explosively. Then let me see how a kid that hasn't even stepped into the 7th level of the nascent soul stage kills me. As soon as he finished speaking, Zither Young Master flashed out. Origin energy raged atop the fingers on his right hand. Then he abruptly pressed his hand onto the spirit Zither he held in his left hand. Instantly, origin energy skyrocketed atop the spirit Zither. Above Zither Young Master, another 726 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared by the side of the existing 1,500 ancient mammoth silhouettes. This was the amplified strength of the grade 5 spirit Zither. In that instant, Zither Young Master flicked his finger, wanting to prod the Zither string to attack Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian's eyes squinted, and a dim light abruptly lit up deep within his eyes, seeming like 2 balls of nether flames that were ready to shoot out at any time, and it rose out explosively. 1,000 illusions. When Duan Ling Tian commanded in his heart, the soul brand deep within Duan Ling Tian's soul had moved. A steady flow of spiritual force fused into the soul brand, then followed along the dim lights in Duan Ling Tian's eyes to pour out and sweep towards Zither Young Master, or precisely speaking, sweeping towards that half of the life and death arena that Zither Young Master was standing on. At this moment, in the world in the eyes of Zither Young Master, Duan Ling Tian stood there unmoving. Along with him prodding the Zither string, and the Zither string that seems like a sharp arrow shot out, and it fiercely pierced through Duan Ling Tian's throat, as if piercing through rotten wood. Puchi. In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian crashed onto the ground and was completely without any sign of life. Ha ha ha. Zither Young Master started laughing as he looked at Duan Ling Tian's corpse in contempt, and his voice was filled with arrogance. Duan Ling Tian, I've told you since long ago, you and I are utterly not on the same level. You weren't even able to block a strike of mine. Now that you're dead, Ku'er is the woman of I, Zither Young Master, from now on. Ha ha ha. Whereas currently, the surroundings of the life and death arena were deathly silent, including all the 7-star sword sect higher-ups and all the disciples. They were completely dumbstruck as they gazed at Zither Young Master, who stood on the life and death arena and was laughing arrogantly as he spoke to himself. Isn't Duan Ling Tian standing there all fine? Why would this Zither Young Master say Duan Ling Tian is dead? Ha ha ha. In the life and death arena, Zither Young Master's laughter still continued, and he seemed as if he was completely mad. Whereas Duan Ling Tian stood at a side of the life and death arena with a calm expression as he gazed at Zither Young Master, who ceaselessly laughed loudly on the other side of the life and death arena, and a wisp of disdain appeared on the corners of his mouth. So what if you're at the half-step void stage? You're not at the void prying stage in the end. Even if you were at the first level of the void prying stage, when faced with the 1,000 illusions I executed with the soul brand, and relying on my first level void prying stage spiritual force, so long as you're not an inscription master, then you'll be unable to defend against it as well. At this moment, amongst the people present, it was probably only Duan Ling Tian that knew what had happened. Duan Ling Tian had executed the soul skill he'd mastered not long ago. This soul skill was comprehended through the soul brand he'd obtained that day within the abode beneath the soul cleanse pool, and it was a type of auxiliary interference type soul skill. This type of soul skill could only use spiritual force to build an illusion space at will, but was unable to be used to attack directly. Duan Ling Tian had given this soul skill a name: 1,000 Illusion. Presently, Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force was comparable to the spiritual force of an ordinary first-level void prying stage martial artist, and once he executed the soul skill, 1,000 Illusion, no martial artist below the void prying stage was able to withstand it. So long as a first-level void prying stage martial artist wasn't an inscription master, then the martial artist would similarly be unable to withstand it. If it was a first-level void prying stage inscription master, then the martial artist would instead be able to break open Duan Ling Tian's thousand illusion with his spiritual force and not be disturbed by it. Whereas even if they weren't inscription masters, Duan Ling Tian's thousand illusions would be completely unable to affect martial artists at the second-level void prying stage and above. Only because the spiritual force of a second-level void prying stage martial artist was far stronger than Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force. It was difficult for Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force to affect a stronger spiritual force. Although Thousand Illusion isn't an attack-type soul skill, yet it's sufficient to cause someone who possesses a spiritual force that's inferior to me to be lost within the illusion space I built by relying on the soul brand, and become a piece of meat on my chopping block, completely at my mercy. Duan Ling Tian took a large stride forward and arrived behind Zither Young Master in the blink of an eye. Whereas Zither Young Master seemed as if he didn't notice in the slightest, and still stood there ceaselessly laughing out loudly. This scene caused the surrounding spectators to feel a chill run down their spines. What happened earlier? The voices of many seven-star sword sect disciples contained slight trembling within. I don't know. That Zither Young Master missed at the beginning when he attacked Duan Ling Tian. At that time, he was like a blind person, and the zither string he plucked out flashed towards the other side that was completely empty. Subsequently, he suddenly started laughing, and even spoke to himself saying that senior brother Duan Ling Tian was already dead. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian is obviously still fine and standing there. Why would Zither Young Master say senior brother Duan Ling Tian is dead? Could it be that he's lost his mind? It's impossible, right? I've never heard that Zither Young Master has such an illness. The crowd of seven-star sword sect disciples whispered in discussion, and they felt their hairs stand on end. The feeling Zither Young Master gave them now was too strange. Damn it! What's going on? Why is it like this? Zhao Lin's expression was incomparably unsightly, as he originally thought that Duan Ling Tian would die in the hands of Zither Young Master. But who knew that such a bizarre incident would suddenly occur? That Zither Young Master had actually lost his mind. Zither Young Master. Zither Young Master. When he saw Duan Ling Tian approaching Zither Young Master, yet Zither Young Master hadn't reacted, Zhao Lin was anxious and hurriedly sent a voice transmission to warn Zither Young Master, wanting to rouse Zither Young Master. He wanted to use Zither Young Master to kill Duan Ling Tian. But his voice transmission was like a rock sinking into the ocean, and it was entirely of no use. Zither Young Master still stood there laughing arrogantly. The remaining seven-star sword sect higher-ups were completely dumbstruck as well, as the scene before them had exceeded their scope of understanding. Looks like senior brother Duan Ling Tian's luck isn't bad. This Zither Young Master actually had an attack of his illness at the critical moment. Mou's face revealed a smile, and he thought that Zither Young Master was sick in the first place. This Duan Ling Tian is actually so lucky. Hu Shuefeng's face slightly sank, and coldness arose within his eyes. On the life and death arena, Duan Ling Tian stood behind Zither Young Master, and the violet myrtle flexible sword appeared out of thin air and was about to descend it onto the side of Zither Young Master's neck in a moment. As long as he slightly exerted force, Zither Young Master would die for sure. Duan Ling Tian, don't be rash. Right when Duan Ling Tian's gaze went slightly cold, and he intended to swing his sword and kill Zither Young Master, who had fallen into the illusion space he built with his spiritual force and soul brand, the anxious voice transmission of the seven-star sword sect's sect leader, Linghu Jin Hong, entered into his ears. Duan Ling Tian frowned. Earlier, this Zither Young Master, Zi Shang, didn't show mercy to him in the slightest, and even talked nonsense many times, disrespecting his fiancée, Kuer. As far as he was concerned, Zither Young Master was already a dead man. Duan Ling Tian, the background of this Zither Young Master isn't simple. That master of his is an expert that's at least at the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage. If you kill him, you'll surely enrage that expert. At that time, not only you, even our 7-star sword sect would probably be unable to escape calamity. Linghu Jinhong's voice transmission was filled with fear. Duan Ling Tian's face sank. Although Duan Ling Tian realized that Zither Young Master's master wasn't simple since long ago, Duan Ling Tian never expected that he wasn't simple to this extent. An existence at the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage or above. Even the 7-star sword sect might not have such an existence, right? Now, Duan Ling Tian finally understood why Ling Hu Jin Hong would be so afraid of the master of Zither Young Master. Humph. Duan Ling Tian's gaze went slightly cold, and the violet myrtle flexible sword in his hand trembled. Then he slapped Zither Young Master's back with the body of the blade, fiercely slapping Zither Young Master flying. Bang! Zither Young Master was blasted out of the illusion space built by the soul skill, 1,000 illusions, and fell heavily outside the life and death arena. Ah! Zither Young Master let out a shrill cry, and he finally became clear-headed. Ling Hu Jin Hong heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this scene. Earlier, he was really afraid that Duan Ling Tian would kill Zither Young Master. Fortunately, Duan Ling Tian didn't strike a killing blow against Zither Young Master in the end. Otherwise, he could imagine that their 7-star sword sect would surely be in utter chaos. What's going on? Zither Young Master struggled to stand up, and his face was gloomy when he felt the injuries on his body. He consumed a medicinal pill right away to recover some of his injuries. Then when he noticed the numerous strange gazes from the surroundings and saw Duan Ling Tian, who stood on the life and death arena without the slightest injury, his face went pale. No, impossible. How could this be possible? You were undoubtedly killed by me. How can you possibly be alive? Zither Young Master saw Duan Ling Tian, and it was as if he'd seen a ghost as he cried out loudly in shock. Duan Ling Tian looked at Zither Young Master with a gaze that contained no feelings. If it wasn't for being worried that the 7-star sword sect would be implicated because of him, he would have killed Zither Young Master with a single slash earlier. As for his own safety, he wasn't worried. As worse come to worse, he could just leave. At that time, not to mention Zither Young Master's master was an existence that was above the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage. Even if he was at the Void Interpretation stage or Void Transformation stage, he still might not be able to find Duan Ling Tian. Zither Young Master's current hysterical appearance entered into the eyes of the 7-star sword sect higher-ups and disciples, and caused them to be unable to refrain from shaking their heads and sighing with emotion. Looks like Zither Young Master is really sick. He still thinks that Duan Ling Tian was killed by him now. I never imagined that this kind of sickness that caused one to lose their mind really existed. I only heard of it in the past, but have never seen it. Today, I can be considered to have gained knowledge. Unfortunately, the dignified Zither Young Master, one of the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, actually has a strange sickness like this. The 7-star sword sect disciples whispered in discussion. Although their voices were soft, but it still entered into the ears of Zither Young Master and caused his face to go gloomy. Lost my mind. These 7-star sword sect disciples said I lost my mind? Zither Young Master took a deep breath and slightly sobered up. Then he started to clear up his thoughts. I undoubtedly killed Duan Ling Tian earlier. But now, Duan Ling Tian is actually standing there all fine and well. And he actually didn't die. What's going on? Traces of coldness suddenly arose within Zither Young Master's heart. Could it be that I've really lost my mind? Duan Ling Tian. Zither Young Master looked at Duan Ling Tian with a slightly cold gaze. Then he once again flashed up the life and death arena to stand in confrontation with Duan Ling Tian. You've already lost. You would have already become a corpse earlier if I didn't show mercy. Duan Ling Tian glanced indifferently at Zither Young Master, and his tone was incomparably calm. Bulls *****. Zither Young Master shouted coldly. His hand shook to once again descend onto the grade 5 spirit Zither as he desired to pluck one of the Zither strings on it to launch an attack at Duan Ling Tian once again. Idiot! Duan Ling Tian's pupils squinted, and the dim light appeared once again in the depths of his eyes, and they were like 2 balls of strange flames that were burning. 1,000 illusions. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force fused into the soul brand before directly executing the soul skill exclusive to the soul brand. Instantly, The area Zither Young Master was located in had once again fallen into the illusion space that Duan Ling Tian had built. Swish. Under the gazes of everyone present, along with Duan Ling Tian's figure flashing out, Zither Young Master instead seemed as if he didn't see Duan Ling Tian's movements, and he plucked the zither string to flash straight towards the place Duan Ling Tian was at earlier. Subsequently, besides Duan Ling Tian, the pupils of everyone else present had constricted. Heavens! What did we just see? Duan Ling Tian. This time I'll make you die completely, and there'll be no possibility for you to survive anymore. At this moment, within the field of vision of everyone, Zither Young Master was speaking to the air, and the spirit zither strings in his hand was ceaseless plucked out to seem to transform into numerous sharp arrows that flashed out swiftly and fiercely blasting onto the spot Duan Ling Tian stood at earlier. Swish, 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 swish. The zither strings flashed out, causing piercing howls to continuously sound out in the air. Bang, 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 bang. The place Duan Ling Tian stood at earlier was completely in ruins, as it was completely destroyed by Zither Young Master, and it was filled with holes and cracks. Ha ha ha. Finally, Zither Young Master stopped attacked and started laughing loudly once more with a laughter that was filled with boundless arrogance. Duan Ling Tian, I've already shattered your corpse to pieces. Let me see how you come back to life this time. Zither Young Master looked complacently at the ground that he'd ruined with a savage expression on his face, as if he'd seen Duan Ling Tian's mangled body that had been torn into pieces. Whereas in the world in Zither Young Master's eyes, it was indeed so. This Zither Young Master has truly gone mad. Looks like so long as this Zither Young Master attacks, he will be struck by illness. His sickness that causes him to lose his mind is truly bizarre. Now, I feel he's slightly pitiable. He obviously has a strength that far surpasses senior brother Duan Ling Tian, but because of this sickness of his, he's bound to be a piece of meat on senior brother Duan Ling Tian's chopping block. The crowd of 7-star sword sect disciples could help but sigh with emotion. Most people present, including most of the 7-star sword sect higher-ups, all had similar thoughts at this moment. Only the 7-star sword sect's leader, Linghu Jin Hong, and at the Mizar Peak's master, Zheng Fan, looked at each other with tacit understanding, and they both saw astonishment in each other's eyes. Sect leader, could all this be Duan Ling Tian's doing? Zheng Fan's voice transmission entered into Linghu Jin Hong's ears, and his voice was filled with terror. It's possible. Linghu Jin Hong's voice transmission was filled with seriousness. But I don't know what ability has Duan Ling Tian executed. I, Linghu Jin Hong, have never seen or heard of such an ability in my entire lifetime. I suddenly have the feeling as if I'm a frog at the bottom of a well. To Linghu Jin Hong and Zheng Fan, no matter was it a soul attack of a spiritual force attack, it was too far away from them, and they had no way of knowing about it. After all, human martial artists were ordinarily only able to come into contact with spiritual force attacks after they broke through to the Martial Emperor stage. As for soul skills, that was an inherited secret skill that was possessed by some extremely rare demon beasts. Even if it was the foreign lands where experts were numerous like the clouds, there were extremely few demon beasts that knew how to execute the mysterious soul skills before breaking through to become a demon emperor. Whereas Duan Ling Tian's luck was good and obtained a soul brand that the inscription master exhausted all his energy in his lifetime to research and create. This soul brand was extremely hard to come by. Even the Rebirth Martial Emperors didn't successfully research and create a soul brand during his time. But for the sake of a soul brand, that inscription master had made himself live a dull life. And although he'd succeeded in the end, yet he was already at the end of his life, and his days were numbered. In the end, all this benefited Duan Ling Tian. Throughout Cloud Continent, I'm afraid there isn't a second person that can reproduce what that senior had done. In other words, I'm afraid I'm the one and only person amongst human martial artists that is able to utilize soul skills via a soul brand before breaking through to the Martial Emperor stage. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart, and his feelings surged. According to the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, he'd gone through 2 lifetimes, but had never once encountered a human martial artist that was able to execute attacks with spiritual force and interfere with the martial artist's opponent before breaking through to the Martial Emperor stage. Although the soul brand left behind by that senior was unable to execute attack-type soul skills, his auxiliary interference-type soul skills was sufficient to allow Duan Ling Tian to be in an undefeatable position when facing martial artists with spiritual force that was weaker than his. Just like the Zither young master, Zishang. Zishang's spiritual force was equal to his cultivation and was also at the half-step void stage. A spiritual force at the half-step void stage was far inferior to Duan Ling Tian's current spiritual force. Moreover, Zishang wasn't an inscription master. Even if he broke through to the first level of the void prying stage and his spiritual force increased in tow, it would still be impossible for him to be a match for Duan Ling Tian. So long as Duan Ling Tian utilized the soul skill, Thousand Illusions, unless his spiritual force was able to attain the second level of the void prying stage. Otherwise, a martial artist that wasn't an inscription master like Zishang would be unable to escape from being thrown into disarray by the illusion space. Under the gazes of everyone present, Duan Ling Tian arrived behind Zither young master once again, and the violet myrtle flexible sword in his hand flashed out before the body of Blade once again descended onto Zither young master's body, slapping him flying. Bang! Zither young master flew out like an arrow leaving the bow, once again falling outside the life and death arena in a sorry state. Zither young master became clear-headed once again, and when he saw the scene before him, it was as if he'd seen a ghost. No, impossible. Duan Ling Tian, you've used a demonic technique. You've surely used a demonic technique. I undoubtedly tore you into pieces. How could you still be alive? How could you possibly still be alive? At this moment, the gaze Zither young master shot at Duan Ling Tian had a sense of fear within. Fear had subconsciously arisen within him. In next to no time, Zither young master's eyes squinted and he suppressed the fear in his heart before looking at Duan Ling Tian with a gaze that contained an extra sense of bloodthirsty coldness. I was actually afraid earlier. I was afraid before this kid who hadn't even stepped into the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. No, why would I be fearful before a kid that still smells of milk? I want him dead. I want him dead. After Zither young master realized he was really fearful, he felt boundless humiliation assault him, and it caused it to be unbearable for him. As one of the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, one of the top martial artists in the younger generation of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he had his own pride, and he didn't permit himself to be afraid in front of anyone. But now, although he was unwilling to admit it, he was indeed afraid. Afraid before a kid whose strength was far inferior to him. As far as he was concerned, such a humiliation could only be completely washed away by the death of this kid. Duan Ling Tian noticed the killing intent in Zither young master's eyes. What? You still want to continue? Duan Ling Tian looked at Zither young master, and his face sank as he said in a cold voice, I've already shown mercy to you twice. If you're still thick-headed, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Zither young master's heart shook, and his eyes emitted boundless malice. Duan Ling Tian, I'll surely find a way to destroy your demonic technique. I surely will. The day I'm able to destroy your demonic technique is the day you die. I, Zishang, will surely kill you with my own 2 hands. Zither young master roared angrily, and his eyes were filled with boundless killing intent. Demonic technique? The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth curled into a wisp of disdain when he heard Zither young master's howls. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian's eyes emitted killing intent. He sensed the hatred Zither young master had towards him. That was hatred that wished for nothing more than to burn his bones and scatter his ashes. Within the hatred was killing intent that shot towards the skies and was waiting for a chance to swallow him. In other words, in the eyes of Zither young master now, it was already a matter that wouldn't end until one of them died. In the future, only one of them could live. Kill me. Duan Ling Tian looked at Zither young master and said indifferently, Zither young master, if you want to kill me, then feel free to come up again and fight me. As Duan Ling Tian spoke, the killing intent in his eyes grew stronger. He'd already decided that if Zither Young Master really dared to ascend the life and death arena again, then he wouldn't hesitate to kill Zither Young Master and avoid any future troubles. At that time, at most he would announce leaving the Seven-Star Sword sect and completely drawing the line between himself and the Seven-Star Sword sect. In this way, even if the formidable master behind Zither Young Master was infuriated, it ought to not come to the extent of implicating the Seven-Star Sword sect. After all, it was he who would have killed Zither Young Master. Zither Young Master was naturally able to clearly sense Duan Ling Tian's killing intent, and when he recalled the bizarre thing that occurred 2 successive times, he eventually took a deep breath and suppressed the flame of rage in his heart. Duan Ling Tian, I'll surely find a way to defeat your demonic technique. Zither Young Master coldly swept Duan Ling Tian with his gaze. Then he blew a whistle under the gazes of everyone present. Swoosh! Instantly, a black shadow flashed down from the clouds and mist in the horizon, seeming to have transformed into a black light that shot close to Zither Young Master. It was the demon beast mount of Zither Young Masters, the Dark Rock. Sect leader Linghu, farewell. Zither Young Master leaped up the Dark Rock, then swept Linghu Jin Hong with a burning gaze before looking at Duan Ling Tian with eyes that emitted killing intent that caused a chill to run down one's spine. Let's go. Zither Young Master explosively shouted out abruptly, as he was deeply afraid that if he stayed a moment longer, he would be unable to refrain from attacking Duan Ling Tian. Although he wished for nothing more than to kill Duan Ling Tian, he didn't lose his sanity. He wouldn't act rashly before he had a method to defeat Duan Ling Tian's demonic technique. Otherwise, he would only be courting death. Who? The Dark Rock fiercely flapped its wings that covered the sky, then carried Zither Young Master to fly out and disappeared in the blink of an eye into the distant horizon. A wave of booing arose on the peak of Dubhe Peak all around the life and death arena when they saw Zither Young Master fleeing. That Zither Young Master is truly laughable. He actually has a sickness that causes him to lose his mind, but he actually falsely accused senior brother Duan Ling Tian. What demonic technique? Does he really think we are 3-year-old children? Perhaps he thinks that doing this will allow him to preserve his face. TSK, the third amongst the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, the Zither Young Master, is nothing great. Truly disappointing. A dignified half-step void stage expert actually was unable to defeat senior brother Duan Ling Tian, who hasn't even stepped into the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. The way I see it, Zither Young Master is a joke. The crowd of 7-Star Sword sect disciples whispered in discussion. Their words were filled with disdain towards Zither Young Master and admiration towards Duan Ling Tian. Besides Zhao Lin, everyone from the sect leader, Linghu Jin Hong, to the 7-Star Sword sect higher-ups all revealed smiled on their faces. To them, Duan Ling Tian was the future hope of the 7-Star Sword sect, and now that he was fine, it was a thing worthy to be happy about. Duan Ling Tian, I never expected your luck is so good. You actually escaped from this calamity. Zhao Lin's expression was gloomy, and the depths of his eyes were suffused with killing intent as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. At this moment, the worry within the hearts of Zheng Song, Zhou Qing, Mo Yu, and all the 7-Star Sword sect disciples who had good relationships with Duan Ling Tian had vanished, and a smile appeared on their faces. Humph. Hu Shuifeng's gaze was icy cold, and his face was gloomy. That Zither Young Master is really useless, having an attack from an old illness at the critical moment. Otherwise, Duan Ling Tian would have died long ago. Duan Ling Tian took a stride forward in the life and death arena and intended to leave the life and death arena. Right at this moment, his face was grim and he abruptly raised his head. At practically the same instant, all the 7-Star Sword sect higher-ups raised their heads to look up into the sky. The clouds and mists surged in the sky above. Whoosh! An incomparably swift azure-colored flowing light was like a meteor as it flew downwards, and its destination was aimed straight towards the life and death arena. Duan Ling Tian's face went grim and hurriedly flashed out to leave the life and death arena. Bang! Duan Ling Tian heard a terrifying sound of air exploding resounding out in the air behind him, and when he turned around once again, he noticed that an enormous figure had appeared in the air above the life and death arena. This was a flying demon beast that was covered in azure-colored feathers and had an extremely hideous appearance, and it was flapping its wings to stand in the sky. 5th level Void Initiation Stage Demon Beast. Presently, Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force had increased to the Void Prying stage, and he was able to discover the cultivation of this demon beast by casually extending his spiritual force out. This demon beast. It seems to be slightly familiar. Duan Ling Tian sized up the demon beast before him that was like a vulture, and he had the feeling as if he'd see it somewhere. Lu Yuan, why did you bring this traitor with you to my 7-star sword sect? Right at this moment, Linghu Jinhong's voice sounded out by Duan Ling Tian's ears. Duan Ling Tian raised his head, and only now did he notice that there were 2 people standing on the back of this vulture demon beast. He knew both of these people. One of them was the Origin Convergence sect's leader he'd met in the Demonic Lotus Blade sect 1 year ago, Lu Yuan. The other person was someone that Duan Ling Tian was even more familiar of. It was exactly the traitor, Huang Ji, the former 7-star sword sect inner court disciple and the sect leader, Linghu Jinhong's former personal disciples. Jade Feather Vulture. Duan Ling Tian recalled that this demon beast was precisely the sect guardian demon beast of the Origin Convergence sect. What did Lu Yuan bring Huang Ji for? To make a show of strength? Duan Ling Tian frowned, as he was truly unable to understand why Lu Yuan would bring Huang Ji, who was a traitor of the 7-star sword sect, to the 7-star sword sect. It's Huang Ji. The traitor, Huang Ji. Meanwhile, many people recognized Huang Ji and they all let loose a torrent of abuse. I was wondering who it was, so it turns out to be this ungrateful bastard. He actually still has the face to come to our 7-star sword sect. The sect leader fostered him into a genius, yet he betrayed the sect leader and betrayed the 7-star sword sect. He's truly disgraceful. He deserves death. Most of the 7-star sword sect disciples on the peak of Dubhe Peak were filled with righteous indignation, and their words were filled with rage. Huang Ji stood on the Jade Feather Vulture, and his expression was gloomy. Go on and curse. Curse to your heart's content. All of you might not have the chance to curse in a moment. Huang Ji glanced coldly at the 7-star sword sect disciples of the peak of Dubhe Peak, and his eyes emitted slight anger from embarrassment and disdain. Sect leader Linghu, I hope that you're well. The Origin Convergence sect's leader, Lu Yuan, nodded with a smile to Linghu Jinhong. Then he paid no further attention to Linghu Jinhong and shot his burning gaze onto a person who was outside the life and death arena. Duan Ling Tian frowned when he noticed Lu Yuan's gaze. What that does Lu Yuan want to do? Duan Ling Tian's heart jerked and a bad premonition faintly arose in his heart. Duan Ling Tian, when we met for the first time 1 year ago, you used a cultivation at the 4th level of the nascent soul stage to defeat the demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master, Long Yun, and I was already rather shocked. But I never imagined that even the Zither young master, Zishang, was actually helpless against you today. Lu Yuan looked at Duan Ling Tian and said slowly. It was only luck. Duan Ling Tian replied indifferently. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian was secretly shocked in his heart. Earlier, his spiritual force had touched Lu Yuan, and he noticed that Lu Yuan's cultivation was actually not inferior to Linghu Jinhong, and he was also in existence at the 6th level of the Void Initiation stage. Swoosh, swoosh. Right at this moment, another 2 enormous figures that were like small hills whistled in the air as they descended from high in the sky, descending to stand in the sky above Dubhe Peak, and formed a triangular formation with the Origin Convergence sect's Jade Feather Vulture. Snow Moon sect's leader? Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended onto one of the enormous demon beasts. This was a white crane, and it was precisely the Snow Moon sect's sect-guarding demon beast, Cloudser Crane, and Duan Ling Tian had seen it once a year ago. Whereas the Snow Moon sect's leader stood with graceful bearing on the back of the Cloudser Crane. This Cloudser Crane is at the 4th level of the Void Initiation stage. The Snow Moon sect's leader is at the 5th level of the Void Initiation stage. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force told him the exact cultivation of the man and beast before him. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian's gaze moved to descend onto the other enormous demon beast. This was a large bird that was completely crimson red and had an extremely strange appearance. As it lightly flapped its wings, it gave rise to a gust of hot winds that were like two balls of flames that were jumping about ceaselessly. Demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader. Before long, Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended onto the robust middle-aged man that stood on the back of the crimson red large bird. Wasn't that the Demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader, Sect Leader Long? This demon beast with completely crimson red feather is actually similar to the Origin Convergence sect's Jade Feather Vulture and is a demon beast at the 5th level of the Void Initiation stage. Besides that, the Demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader is actually in existence at the 6th level of the Void Initiation stage. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force swept out, and his mind was incomparably turbulent after a short moment. It probably isn't for anything good that the 3 great sect leaders have arrived at the 7-Star Sword sect. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath, and the feeling of danger in his heart increased. It wasn't just Duan Ling Tian who felt danger. All the 7-Star Sword sect higher-ups had gone grim as well. May I know why all 3 of you have come to my 7-Star Sword sect this time? Linghu Jinhong looked at the 3 sect leaders on the 3 demon beasts, and he had a serious expression as he asked with a low voice. The 3 sect leaders had come here in unison, and something unusual was going on. Sect leader Linghu. The Demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader looked at Linghu Jinhong and laughed heartily. I've come to the 7-Star Sword sect with sect leader Lu and sect leader Shui this time for only one thing. That is to combine our sects. Combine the sects? As soon as the Demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader finished speaking, everyone from the 7-Star Sword sect that was on the peak of Dubhe Peak had puzzled expressions. Combine the sects. Duan Ling Tian's heart jerked. I was right. The 3 great sects' arrival was really filled with bad intentions. Sect leader Long, please express it clearly. Linghu Jinhong frowned and said in a low voice. From today onwards, my Demonic Lotus Blade sect will combine with the Origin Convergence sect and Snow Moon sect. Will be uniformly called the Azure Forest Trisect. Today, so long as your 7-Star Sword sect combines with our 3 sects, then our 4 sects will be uniformly called the Azure Forest Quad sect. The Demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader spoke slowly. Combine the sects? Combine with our sect? Everyone from the 7-Star Sword sect that was atop the peak of Dubhe Peak had finally wrapped their heads around the matter when the Demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader finished speaking. So it turned out that this was what the Demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader meant. Combine the sects. Linghu Jinhong frowned. Sect leaders, may I know why all of you suddenly want to combine your sects? And may I know until what extent will this combining be? The Origin Convergence sect's leader took over. Sect leader Linghu. The so-called combination of sects is to completely combine all of our great sects. Once the 7-Star Sword sect combines with our 3 great sects, our 4 sects will share all cultivation resources, including cultivation methods, medicinal pills, spirit weapons, etc. Amongst these includes the sect guarding martial skills. Moreover, from today onwards, the 7-Star Sword sect, Demonic Lotus Blade sect, Origin Convergence sect, and Snow Moon sect will cease to exist. Our 4 sects won't be divided by sects any longer and be uniformly called the Azure Forest Quad sect. Share everything? Including the sect guarding martial skills? The 7-Star Sword sect will cease to exist? Lu Yuan's words caused Linghu Jinhong's face to become bleak. Sect leader Lu Yuan, I'm afraid this won't do. The 7-Star Sword sect was passed down from the founding ancestor of my 7-Star Sword sect, and its meaning is extraordinary. If I were to combine the 7-Star Sword sect with all of you, how would I answer to all the ancestors of my 7-Star Sword sect? So, my 7-Star Sword sect has no objection if your 3 sects want to combine with each other. But it's absolutely impossible that my 7-Star Sword sect will agree to combine sects with all of you. Absolutely impossible. Linghu Jinhong's tone was resolute and decisive. Right, don't combine sects. Why should we combine sects? Our seven-star sword sect is the #1 sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, the one and only. Exactly. That day, I came here because of the reputation of the seven-star sword sect as the #1 sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. If the seven-star sword sect were to combine with the other sects, then what's the point of me joining the seven-star sword sect? The crowd of seven-star sword sect disciples discussed animatedly and were all unwilling to combine sections. Sect leaders, all of you have seen it. My seven-star sword sect isn't suitable to combine sections. Linghu Jinhong looked at the three great sects with a calm gaze as he spoke slowly. Duan Ling Tian noticed that when Linghu Jinhong made his decision, the three sect leaders looked at each other and seemed to not be surprised. However, his acute spiritual force noticed that killing intent that faintly arose from the bodies of the three great sect leaders at the first possible moment. Not good. Duan Ling Tian's face went grim, and he hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Linghu Jinhong. Sect leader, I'm afraid these three sect leaders have come with bad intentions. Linghu Jinhong didn't even have the chance to react yet. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Three incomparably swift howls in the wind abruptly tore through the sky. An enormous grand rock was in the lead. Its wings that could cover the sky were spread open as it arrived at the peak of Dubhe Peak in the blink of an eye before flying in circles, and its originally muddy eyes emitted a frightful sheen as it stared fixedly at the sect guarding demon beasts of the three great sections. Elder Pong. Duan Ling Tian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the enormous grand rock, and at the same time, his spiritual force flashed out. At the first possible moment, he's examined Elder Peng's cultivation. 6th level of the Void Initiation stage. Elder Peng's strength was even stronger than the three sect guarding demon beasts of the three great sections. Little fellow, your spiritual force has improved again. Even I was nearly unable to notice you. Right at this moment, an aged voice sounded in by Duan Ling Tian's ears. Duan Ling Tian was able to discern that this was the voice of Elder Pong. Elder Pong, I never expected I was still noticed by you. Duan Ling Tian was shocked in his heart. After all, he wasn't noticed when he used his spiritual force to examine the cultivations of the various sect leaders and their sect guardian demon beasts. At this moment, he was instead noticed by Elder Pong, and it was sufficient to display that Elder Pong wasn't simple. My soul is innately stronger than ordinary demon beasts, as there's a trace of the Goldwing Grand Rock's bloodline in my body. Elder Peng's voice transmission continued to enter into Duan Ling Tian's ears. Goldwing Grand Rock. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but search the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor when he heard Elder Pong. In next to no time, he found records related to the Goldwing Grand Rock in the memories of Rebirth Martial Emperor. The Goldwing Grand Rock was a formidable demon beast that possessed a natural talent that wasn't inferior to the jade-eyed heavenly mouse, and once they matured, they were able to become demon emperors that possessed strength that shook the heavens and the earth. I really never imagined that Elder Pong would actually possess the bloodline of a Goldwing Grand Rock. Even if it's only a trace, it's sufficient to allow Elder Pong to far surpass ordinary demon beasts. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself, Little Gold, do you know of the Goldwing Grand Rock? Duan Ling Tian curiously asked the little gold mouse beneath his sleeve via voice transmission. Goldwing Grand Rock. The little gold mouse's voice transmission entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears. There seems to be records of this type of demon beast within the inherited memories I've awoken. The Goldwing Grand Rock ought to be a descendant of a saint beast like us jade-eyed heavenly mice. It's adept in speed. In terms of speed, there are extremely few demon beasts that are able to compare with the Goldwing Grand Rock family. Another descendant of saint beasts? Duan Ling Tian was shocked in his heart. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended the other two people that had appeared at practically the same instant that Elder Pong appeared. These were two old men. One of the old men wore azure clothed, and his body emitted strands of profound aura of the wind as he stood in the sky. It's wind. Wind concept. Duan Ling Tian was shocked inwardly. Subsequently, his gaze descended onto the other old man. This old man wore gray clothes, and as he stood there, His entire body seemed to have transformed into a sharp sword, and in the area of the sky he stood on, the airflow in the sky flew about, as if they were afraid of the sword chi that he emitted. What a terrifying sword concept! Duan Ling Tian's eyes squinted. The spiritual force he stretched out had noticed in the first possible moment that the strength of this gray-clothed old man surpassed the azure-clothed old man. More importantly, these two old men were both experts at the 6th level of the Void Initiation stage. Martial Uncle Xian, Martial Uncle Ming. Elder Xian, Elder Ming. Linghu Jinhong and all the 7-star sword sect higher-ups respectfully bowed to the two old men. Guardian Elders. Many 7-star sword sect disciples respectfully bowed to the two old men. They are the two great guardian elders of the 7-star sword sect, Elder Xian and Elder Ming. Duan Ling Tian was able to guess the identity of the two old men. Since you've come, then why conceal yourselves? Right at this moment, Duan Ling Tian noticed that the gray-clothed old man suddenly looked up into the sky and spoke indifferently. At the same time, origin energy skyrocketed on his body, and it actually transformed into an enormous sword that enveloped his entire body. Subsequently, a terrifying sword concept coiled around the enormous sword condensed from origin energy, and it emitted a terrifying aura. Swish! Suddenly, the enormous sword charged into the sky, piercing into the cloud and mist high above in the sky, as if it had transformed into a broom that swept away the clouds and mist in the sky. Bang! Accompanied by an enormous bang, 6 figures cut through the horizon as they descended down. 3 of them seemed to be in a sorry state. These were 6 old men that were now divided into 3 groups that each descended by the side of the 3 sect leaders to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. They were obviously experts of the 3 great sections. 3 people at the 6th level of the Void Initiation stage, another 3 more at the 5th level of the Void Initiation stage. After relying on his acute spiritual force to detect the cultivations of the 6 people, Duan Ling Tian's face was ominous. Including the 3 sect leaders and the 3 sect guardian demon beasts, the total experts on the side of the 3 great sects, including demon beasts, were 5 at the 6th level of the Void Initiation stage, 6 at the 5th level of the Void Initiation stage, and 1 at the 4th level of the Void Initiation stage. Whereas on the side of the 7-star sword sect, there were only 4 at the 6th level of the Void Initiation stage, 1 at the 5th level of the Void Initiation stage, 3 at the 4th level of the Void Initiation stage, 2 at the 2nd level of the Void Initiation stage, and 1 at the 1st level of the Void Initiation stage. The difference was too great. Elder Xian, you worthy of being the matchless sword cultivating genius of the 7-star sword sect, you've actually comprehended the 7th level sword concept. Admirable. A robust old man in red clothes stood by the side of the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader, and his sharp eyes contained seriousness mixed within as he looked at the gray-clothed old man in the distance. Old Manhwa, I never expected that an old goat like you would come here personally. Looks like all of you plan to take down my 7-star sword sect today. The gray-clothed old man was precisely the 7-star sword sect's Elder Xian, and he spoke indifferently. His tone fully revealed his killing intent and sword chi that shot into the sky. Elder Xian, you're mistaken. The blue-clothed old man that stood on the clouds or craned by the Snow Moon sect's leader's side looked at Elder Xian, then he said slowly, so long as the 7-star sword sect is willing to combine with our 3 great sects today and unite into the Azure Forest Quad sect, all of us old ones will apologize to Elder Xian and bid our farewells before leaving. Exactly. The old man that stood by the Origin Convergence sect's leader on the Jade Feather Vulture nodded as well. These 3 old fellows at the 6th level of the Void Initiation stage ought to be the strongest guardian elders of the 3 great sects. Looks like they came prepared today. Moreover, none of them have any good intentions. Duan Ling Tian's gaze flickered, and he was extremely afraid. The strongest experts of the 3 great sects were now gathered together, gathered on the 7-star sword sect's Dubhe Peak. If it was the experts of any one of the sects, the 7-star sword sect wouldn't be afraid. Even if it was the experts of 2 sects arriving together, the 7-star sword sect might not be unable to fight them. But now, the experts of 3 sects had arrived, and to the 7-star sword sect, it was undoubtedly a calamity. Impossible. Elder Xian's reply was extremely simple and direct. The experts of the three great sects weren't surprised by Elder Xian's reply, and they had a carefree expression. The three great sects probably had the intention of annihilating the seven-star sword sect. As for the combining of the four great sects, they probably already expected that it was impossible for the seven-star sword sect to agree long ago. Duan Ling Tian's thoughts spun when he saw this scene. How could the seven-star sword sect, the #1 sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, stoop and combine with the other sects? A man would rather die than be humiliated. The seven-star sword sect didn't permit its honor to be violated. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian. Suddenly, Mou arrived by Duan Ling Tian's side, and he had a worried expression. What exactly do the people from the three great sects want to do? Duan Ling Tian shook his head. They came with bad intentions. At the peak of Dubhe Peak, the atmosphere had suddenly become incomparably strange, and the confrontation between the experts of the three great sects and the seven-star sword sect would be triggered at any moment.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.